No, just that one.
Okay, the Rules Committee will come to order. With costs rising at the pump, the supermarket, and elsewhere, we're here today to deliver solutions to address the financial burdens that many Americans are facing. So let's be clear about the driving forces behind inflation. As economic demand returns, now that the darkest days of the pandemic are hopefully behind us, Americans are using more gas. But instead of making more gas, big oil companies are deliberately making less gas so they can charge people more. It's wrong. And add to that, Putin's war against Ukraine and OPEC's price gouging are only making things worse. And at the supermarket, costs are going up because of supply chain issues. But they're also going up because of corporate greed and price gouging that has got to stop. Now, let me explain. 4 conglomerates control the market for pork, beef, and poultry and use their power to increase prices and underpay farmers. They claim that meat processors are forced to raise prices to the level they are now because of increasing input costs. But their own internal earnings data contradict that claim. Their profit margins, the amount of money that they are making over and above their costs, have skyrocketed since the pandemic. Gross margins are up 50%, and net margins are up over 300%. So here's the deal. House Democrats of the Biden administration are fighting for working people and for the people who are being most directly impacted by rising costs. The Lower Food and Fuel Costs Act will increase competition in the meat and poultry processing industry to help prevent anti-competitive practices and stabilize prices. It will help us tackle supply chain issues that are driving up the cost of food and make our food supply chain more resilient. It will help lower fertilizer costs for farmers to help lower food prices, and it will help make cheaper, cleaner gas available at the pump. And by the way, you know who corporate price gouging most hurts? Communities that experience oppression and marginalization. America's racial wealth gap has been made worse by the COVID pandemic. In H.R. 2543, the Federal Reserve Racial Economic Equity Act is a package of legislation to address racial and economic inequities that limit opportunities for Americans to buy homes, access loans, and earn fair wages. House Democrats are laser-focused on lowering costs for American consumers, fighting inflation and corporate price gouging, and standing up for working families. And finally, today we will consider H.R. 2773, the Recovering America's Wildlife Act of 2022. Habitat loss, climate change, invasive species, disease, and severe weather are threatening the lives of birds, mammals, fish, amphibians, reptiles, butterflies, and bees. Sadly, the conservation window has already closed for more than 150 U.S. species that have gone extinct and nearly 500 additional species that are presumed extinct. Simply put, species are disappearing because of climate change. Once lost, they are gone forever. We must act. H.R. 2773 is the most significant bipartisan investment in wildlife conservation in a generation. The funding will directly benefit on-the-ground conservation efforts such as restoring habitats and fighting invasive species. These 3 bills deserve sweeping support, and I hope that our colleagues will join us in these efforts. With that, let me turn